Good morning, dear friends and participants of the marathon. We are continuing our program, and it is time for our Srimad Bhagavatam class. And this morning, a famous in the whole world of the three worlds, Kashi Mishra Prabhu. He also leads mantra yoga. He's a master of bhakti yoga and a Vedic psychologist, musician, spiritual guru. He spent many years in India, Nepal and Bangladesh, and Krishna Mishra travels a lot around Russia as well. More than 20 years he's been studying Sanskrit, and he is a friend of Valmiki Prabhu. He has carried out many Harinam programs with him. Over to you. Hare Krishna. Good morning to everyone. It's an excellent morning today, which we can spend in an ideal way, discussing the Leelas of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially the most beneficial to begin the day, beginning to remember the Lord. The Vedic tradition and culture, this ancient culture, this very first culture of the whole of the world, it begins from the beginning of the world. The spiritual texts, the Lord himself and his representatives, they recommend the very morning, from the very morning, to turn our minds to the stories of the Lord, to prayer, to gratitude to the Lord. And another day has come, and we can offer it to the Lord, to the Supreme Lord. All of our activities are dependent on him. Therefore, in all times, a person wakes up early morning and meeting the sunrise, just like the whole of nature, is ready to start the new day. And so a person acting in sync with the universe and in sync with the will of the Lord makes his day perfect. If in the morning he tunes in his mind to that very sattvic, that very beneficial wave and mood, the morning is the time to direct our mind, our consciousness to the Lord, towards the Lord. In association, in society now, this culture maybe has forgotten that a person should be like this. In the morning, a person wakes up and turns on the television straight away, and this way his mind in the morning is already not on a very good wavelength or vibration or energy. But if we direct our minds towards the Lord, to the source of our life, our energy towards the Lord and the love, the supreme love, then our day will be in harmony and harmonious. It's important to occupy our mind with prayer from the very morning, and then as well to discuss the pastimes of the Lord and his actions. The Lord comes to this world in order to call his children back into the spiritual world, back home. and to remind everyone that this material world is not a place. It's not a place where there is joy or supreme happiness or perfection. Here we are striving towards perfection and can obtain it if we are in a human form of life, which is a very, very precious gift of nature. And this form of human life, we are able to gain this perfection if we correctly act just like the Lord advises us and his disciples advise us. And so following this, this primordial and this most purifying path, this most majestic and strong spiritual path and tradition, we will purify our minds with the pastimes of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was on this earth not very long ago, only 500 plus years ago. The Lord himself came in the form of Lord Chaitanya or Gauranga Mahaprabhu, which means the golden man. Gaura means golden. Anga means body. Gauranga, the golden-bodied. And so he revealed his pastimes in order to attract us his children, towards spiritual topics and pastimes and literature, and to inspire us to return to the spiritual world, to overcome suffering which is associated with being in this material world, which is to do with birth, old age, disease and death. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Mahavadanyaya avatar, which means the most merciful incarnation of the Lord, who comes not very often, once in 1000 Kali Yugas, once in a day of Brahma. And of course, it's very important for us, for our own personal interest, to take full advantage of this mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and finish our material suffering, which is to do with reincarnation in different bodies in this material world, and to return to the spiritual world. And already in this world now, we can be engaged in blissful, joyful interaction with the Lord through the method of what Lord Chaitanya has given us in order to obtain this supreme perfection and to reconnect our loving relationship back to the Lord. And this is the highest and most purifying method of glorifying the Lord, which is called Sankirtan Yagya. Sankirtana. Sankirtana meaning altogether singing the holy names of the Lord. And following this method, we can restore our loving relationship with the Lord and to return to our original state in the spiritual world, where there our ultimate house, ultimate home, where we are free from all sufferings and full of eternity, knowledge and bliss, being always in association with the Lord. And this connection and association we can begin now and be in that same bliss and joy, taking advantage of this method of Sankirtan, of singing the holy names together. Prabodhananda Saraswati, a great saint and devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was saying that, says that when the world, this material world, also becomes a place of happiness and bliss, even though the Holy Scriptures describe this world as a place full of suffering. But Prabodhananda Saraswati says that if we engage and immerse ourselves in this ecstatic method of or movement of Lord Chaitanya, singing jointly, congregationally singing with dancing, just like it is carried out in the spiritual world. This movement of Sankirtan, this congregational chanting, then for us, this world, which is a prison house of suffering, turns already here now into a place of happiness, bliss, and we dance and sing and glorify the Lord and return to the spiritual world, and might even not notice how we end up there, because the spiritual world already begins here for us. If we are engaged in this process, our loving relationships with the Lord are already revealed, remembered, and this is how we enter the spiritual world, return home, already being here, even though being here in this body. Golokera Premadana, Harinama Sankirtana. It is sung in a bhajan. Where it is said that the Lord Chaitanya brought the same mood, the same joy of glorifying our Creator, the glorification of the Supreme, and he brought this from the spiritual world here into this material world. And in this way, drowning the material world with love of Godhead, and this same method and mood which is in the spiritual world, he brings it here in this way, making this world a spiritual world also for those who connect to his movement. Harinama Sankirtan. And of course, in this time, on this earth, this troublesome, turbulent time, the golden age of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is revealing itself more and more at this time. It is especially important for people as an alternative to the material way of life, to bring into their life the real, the genuine life. And real life is the life of joy and communication and connection with God. And this will be the solution to all of our problems, all of our crises, all of our sufferings of this world. And it is therefore important to attempt to bring this method into our lives. And then we will ourselves experience, when people will begin to experience this on their own personal experience, what it is, the glorification of the Lord, which is our original constitutional position of the soul, to glorify the Lord. And this itself is the resolution to all of the crises and problems of this world, individually and socially. And it is the only solution. As souls, we are called, it is our nature to glorify the Lord. And in this material world, this quality reveals itself as us glorifying somebody, but the ultimate object of our worship is the Lord, the Supreme Lord. And in this state, this original, normal, natural state, we are able to be happy. And so in the biography of Lord Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, as I said, the golden person, the golden avatar, his incarnation was renowned throughout many countries, that the Lord himself is now present on earth. And he is collecting and he is gathering a group of pilgrims and went to India in order to see this golden avatar, Gauranga, this golden person, Gauranga. And from the territory of Russia, people were gathering to see him. And those who saw him, he immediately gained love of God. It is said that he who organized his expedition so that to see him, in order to arrive in India, but on the way got lost and deterred and ended up in America. Which is also symbolic, because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement began to spread all over the world, and it began in America. And his representative, the coming of whom even Mahaprabhu himself predicted, and he called him the general of his army, the Sinapati Bhakti, the general, and he will spread my message of my movement all over this world. Therefore we can see Srila Prabhupada is the embodiment, this general of Lord Chaitanya's army, the coming of whom Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself predicted. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also predicted and foretold that the holy names of the Lord, his names, the name of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, will be sung all over the planet. And this will be the reason for the cure of all problems, of all crises, and for the flourishing of the world. Now we see many videos about how to overcome problems and how to remedy problems. All the problems of the world, in this world, different crises, economic crises, political crises, more and more we see. But we see that they only gain reversals and they become even greater. But a person, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, will come and having understood that it is possible to solve all problems, economic, political, only if you surrender to the Lord and carry out His will and glorify in Him. And so the movement of Lord Chaitanya will give this opportunity to humanity. The Lord predicted that this movement, having spread all over the planet soon, will liberate humanity from suffering, and humanity will be immersed in bliss and glorification of the Lord by this sacred initial method. This ancient method to glorify the Lord is a very, very mighty practice, and it came to us through the parampara system. And so we carry it out as it was from the beginning. This is the might and power of this method, this purifying strength. And therefore, the power of this method, which allows us to understand our relationship with the Lord and to gain this eternal happiness.
Sankirtana arambhe amar avatar karayam sarva desha kirtana prachar.
Lord Chaitanya also said that I have come to begin the movement, Sankirtana, this congregational chanting of the holy names, and I will do this for the whole planet.
Jaya Jaya Mahaprabhu Brajendra Kumar Jagat Tarite Prabhu Tomar Avatar.
The devotees of Lord Chaitanya are people who have accepted Gauranga as the holy, supreme personality of Godhead, looking at his pastimes, his miracles, which only the Lord himself can perform. And people of that world, of that time, who were near the Lord, near Gauranga at that time, great kings and scientists like Prataparudra Maharaj, the king of Orissa, and great scholars, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who had thousands of students and who was a great scholar and great authority in philosophy and science and spiritual science, and other kings and other great scholars. They accepted Gauranga as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Seeing how his external beauty, externally beautiful, and his features and external qualities and internal qualities, his spiritual qualities, his manifestations, his pastimes, his actions, mystical, magical pastimes, which he carried out, Gauranga, which Gauranga carried out. Therefore, these great souls and simple souls of that time glorified him, and one of the prayers which they addressed
Bola Jai Jai Mahaprabhu Brajendra Kumar Jagat Tarite Prabhu Tomar Avatar. Jai Jai Mahaprabhu.
You are yourself Brajendra Kumar. You yourself are the king of Vrindavan. You are the Lord Krishna, in other words.
Jagat Tarite Tomar Avatar.
And you have appeared for the purpose. What purpose is that? What is your will? What is your mission? Because the Lord usually comes and he has some sort of reason for this. His desire is to carry out something, some pastime, some manifestation, manifest some pastime. And in this case, they shouted, they exclaimed, in order to save the universe, Tomar Avatar, through your manifestation, your incarnation, is to save the whole planet and the whole universe. And so, through his actions, through his leelas and pastimes, we have already said they are full of mystical and magical manifestations. The Lord attracted and revealed to many, to everyone who saw him, everyone who came in contact with him somehow or other. Everyone were in some magical way converted and obtained the love of Godhead. Their bodies began to quiver in ecstasy of love to God for no apparent reason. Their spiritual qualities and spiritual form revealed itself physically, and external nature, the external coverings of the mortal coverings, they would disappear into the background, and it would be forgotten. And the spiritual quality of the soul, of ourselves as spiritual, eternal, loving souls and servants of the Lord. On whoever the Lord looked, or whoever he touched, or whoever saw him, would immediately have these symptoms of love of Godhead, love of God. And this is one of the incredible manifestations of Lord Chaitanya, which also reveals that he himself is the Supreme God who came with this mission to give the love of God to every resident of Kali Yuga now and make their lives perfect. Therefore, it is very important to use this opportunity for us now and to give this opportunity to others, making their lives perfect. And so, on whoever the Lord looked, and through whichever villages he passed, towns, places, they immediately, all the residents of these villages would begin to pursue him. He was surrounded by crowds and crowds of people. They couldn't draw their eyes away from him. And his deep, loud voice would captivate everyone who heard him. Everyone became immersed in ecstatic love of God. And this is only possible for God Himself, to give love to Himself straight away. Straight away give this love to God, and to give love of God, only God Himself can give. And so as He gave this love of God, as people looked and then left to their towns and their villages to return, everyone who saw them, they also obtained love of God. And then those who saw also obtained love of God. Therefore, it is possible that this is also coming to our times, also, this chain. And even those who are participating in this movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now, also through their ecstatic kirtan, through their discussions of the leelas of the Lord Chaitanya, of Krishna, they also attract the minds of all the others who see them, who hear their kirtans from afar, as they dance and chant, full of bliss and love of God. People also cannot pass by. They think, wow, how is this? What is this? The world is in a crisis. Many people are experiencing stress and distress, depression. How do we go on? How do we live? What is going to happen? They don't know what's going to come in the next day. And there is wars in some places. These disturbances are growing more and more. And so when in the middle of this they see that devotees of the Lord are ecstatic and blissful, they're glorifying the Lord, their joy are not faked. They are genuinely feeling these feelings. And external disturbances of material worlds is not affecting them in any way. These external crises are not affecting the devotees. These wars and these other worldly troubles. These conditionings are not affecting them. And so they look and they think, oh, I also want this. And so this is the method of being free. And so people see this and they are attracted themselves in this way and become connected to the movement of Lord Chaitanya. And they get that very peace and joy themselves, this bliss of communicating and having interactions with the Lord.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
And so the biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Gauranga Mahaprabhu, who is called Caitanya-Caritamrta, in three parts, Adi Lila, Madhya Lila, and Antya Lila. This is the scripture of Lord Chaitanya, which describes different parts of the life of the Lord Gauranga. Adi Lila is his birth, all the way through till his acceptance of sannyas. And then Madhya Lila is his life until Jagannath Puri, journey to Vrindavan, his preachings, his preaching in southern India, his preaching in and his talks with his devotees, and the manifestations of his ecstatic love for God in Jagannath Puri, and his communications and talks with his great devotees. Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna combined. The sacred scriptures say that Lord Chaitanya is Sri Krishna. Lord Chaitanya and Sri Krishna is non-different from each other. And Lord Chaitanya is non-different from Radha and Krishna. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Naha Anya. Therefore, he shows the mood of Lord Chaitanya displays the relationship of Radha to Lord Krishna, more or less. And more or less, the love of Krishna and the separation from Krishna was fully displayed by Lord Chaitanya. And in this way, he surprised and inspired his devotees. He would cry day and night, "Where are you, Krishna? Where have you disappeared? How can I see you? How do I communicate with you? How do I speak with you?" And so in this mood he spent the majority of the time in Jagannath Puri. For 18 years he was there. The whole time he was there. And Jagannath Puri is a place which is filled with this mood of separation, of intense love towards Krishna. And in this way he infects us with this love. He infects his followers with this love. And he calls us to develop this love and to reconnect us through this love and to feel this separation from the Lord. How can I live without you in this world? Dear Lord, where are you? How do I find you? How do I restore this relationship with you? How do I remember our eternal relationship, without which I cannot be happy, without which I am lost in this world and my life has no meaning? Because through our relationship in this world, our relationships in this world are merely illusions of happiness without love for you. This mood we develop and cultivate by taking part in the movement of Lord Chaitanya, and this very mood which he was feeling and which his disciples and devotees felt, similarly inspired by him, developing a similar mood like he was teaching himself. And so Madhya Lila, several chapters which describe these different pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, which are discussing and immersing in we connect with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We find ourselves in those times and in his association, in his mood of love of his devotees and his close followers, because the compiler of Sri Caitanya-Caritamrta, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, having written the words of this biography through the diaries and the words of Lord Chaitanya's close disciples and companions, therefore we can enter into this close association with Lord Chaitanya through this method, through this literature. Many wanted to see him closer, but not everyone was able to have this chance. And so now, thank you to this biography of and thank you to saintly people who are caring for the welfare of all living beings, for the ultimate welfare, that all return to the spiritual world. And in this way, the Lord gives us this mission, given us this ability to join to the ultimate happiness, and we can find ourselves in this association with Lord Chaitanya, finding out these sacred details, intimate details of his life. And so in Madhya Lila, which describes Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri, several pastimes we can see, we can study and immerse ourselves in, and to transfer ourselves mentally to that time, and find ourselves in the presence of Lord Chaitanya and to gain incredible benefit. Thankfully for this scripture, have association with Lord Chaitanya and his close disciples. The 12th chapter tells us how Gauranga Mahaprabhu at the time of the yearly celebrations of Jagannath, Ratha Yatra, which at this time also is happening in Jagannath Puri, how they took part, danced in front of Lord Jagannath, and the cart of Lord Jagannath. Lord Chaitanya saw Lord Krishna himself in Jagannath, and he showed great love, which Srimati Radharani feels herself, the closest beloved of the Lord. And this chapter is called The Cleansing of the Gundicha Temple, where Lord Chaitanya inspires his disciples to carry out a great cleansing of this temple. And also, he shows how very thoroughly we must cleanse the temple of our hearts as well, because when they were cleansing this temple, they washed it. They also, at the same time, they washed the temple of Lord Narasimha, which is close to Gondicha temple. We can remember the Harinam tour with Valmiki Prabhu and a group of devotees. We also took part in Valmiki Prabhu, and Valmiki Prabhu was inspiring everyone to similarly cleanse the temple also and start to immerse ourselves in a similar mood, especially since this was happening close to this place. And as much as we could, we entered the temple of Gondicha, had a kirtan there for some time, and for as long as we were allowed to, by the local priests and pujaris. And similarly, we also cleansed some rubbish around the temple in order to experience at least a drop of this mood. And behind this temple, there is also an ancient temple of Lord Narasimha. And it is described how Lord Chaitanya and his disciples also cleansed this temple. When they gathered all the external rubbish and dirt which was around the temple, and this is all the dirt which they could find inside the temple, there was a lot of disciples as well as Lord Chaitanya who were preparing the the path for Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra to that temple. They were preparing the way for them. Similarly, we must attempt to cleanse our hearts in order to invite the Lord there. And so, having cleansed the first load, and the first time he cleansed the temple, he looked and he was praising those who collected the most rubbish. And when it seemed that they had cleansed all the dirt, Lord Chaitanya said, "Okay, so let's do this a second time." And it seemed that externally that everything was clean and there is no more dirt. But when everyone started to cleanse the second time and to cleanse the temple, it turned out that they collected the same amount of dirt again. And Lord Chaitanya again to cleanse it a third time. And so several times they would go in and cleanse the temple. They found some sort of dirt again, some sort of litter inside the temple. And then Lord Chaitanya began to pour water, use brushes, and to cleanse the asana, the throne upon which the deities will sit. And then they cleansed and washed with water the temple itself and around the temple. And so in this way they showed that to cleanse the heart, to cleanse our hearts, it is quite a serious task. And in order to invite the Lord into a clean heart, it is important to do this with determination, enthusiastically, patience. When something may be lacking, if enthusiasm is there, but determination and patience is lacking, or if there is determination but there is enthusiasm but there is no patience, or there is patience but there's no enthusiasm and determination. So all of these qualities are very important. Sahanishya Darya, enthusiasm, patience and determination. The understanding that there is no greater task in our life. Everything else, whatever is essential for us in the material life, everything will be given to us when we are engaged in the most important task, the task of the Lord Himself, or achieving the Lord, to carry out His will and desires, to restore our original relationship with God. And so this godly work of cleansing our heart seems that we have cleansed all the external dirt has gone. But some sort of subtle dirt in the those dark corners of our hearts, of our subtle body, remains, and so we very enthusiastically work simply by immersing ourselves in this mission. And so this is the process of cleansing and purification. And then in the 13th chapter it is described an incredible event, an incredible dance of Lord Chaitanya Gauranga Mahaprabhu and his devotees before the cart of Lord Jagannath, of the Jagannath deity, ecstatic dancing of Lord Chaitanya during the time of the Ratha Yatra. The dance of the Lord at Ratha Yatra, this is the name of the chapter. And there are many incredible occurrences which were taking place. When the Lord gathered groups of Sankirtan members, the dancers, the Kirtan singers, the musicians. There were 7 groups, and in every group there was 2 mridangas, a few kartals, and very powerfully they sang the Lord's name with kartals.
Jai Shri Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha
The Lord would often, during the time of Kirtan, would immerse himself in the qualities of the Lord.
Hare Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Namaha Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Moha.
In this way he showed Krishna his incredible qualities, his incredible beauty, being the source of all beauty, all love, all the best qualities. Remembering this and immersing himself in this love and reliving the separation of the Lord and singing all the different poems of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Purana, the 10th canto, where the gopis would sing the glories of the Lord and glorify him and feel separation from him. Different prayers.
Jayati janani vasadevaki janmavado yaduvara parishatsvardarvirasyan dharmam thera charavrajnagna tusmita sri mukhena rajapuravanitana vardhan kamadeva.
Different similar prayers of the Lord were described, his incredible qualities. How the gopis were seeing him off in Vrindavan to go and herd the cows with his friends when he was leaving every day. The gopis would look at him and describe the beauty of Krishna, how he's decorated by a garland, how his garments are the color of lightning, bright yellow colors, and different other ornaments. He was playing on the flute incredibly, which steal the mind and hearts of everyone, of all the living entities, and in separation with Kanha. And so these similar glorifications of Krishna, and to the sounds of these different glorifications, he would enter Vrindavan, and the gopis were worried how his soft lotus feet would be walking along the different sharp stones and needles on the floor of the forest. They would describe their anxiety of how he might hurt his feet. His body's very, very gentle, and all of these different songs by the gopis Lord Chaitanya would recall. And so he would be very much immersed in this mood of Srimati Radharani, this mood of separation with the Lord. Each time she would feel ecstasy and nectar of the beauty of the Lord Krishna, of Lord Krishna. It is the embodiment of all beauty. He is the concentrated form of all beauty. And so during the time of this Ratha Yatra, Lord Chaitanya would immerse in this mood, and his devotees seeing this mood and quoting these shlokas of the gopis would glorify him, glorify Krishna in the form of Lord Jagannath. And even Jagannath himself was amazed at this dance, and the cart would stop and be unable to move. And even the king Prataparudra, king of Orissa, was doing everything possible to move this cart, but he was unable to. In order to move the cart further was impossible. He was inviting the strongest people who were pulling the ropes, they were unable to move the cart from its place. Then he brought elephants who were pulling the cart, and even this was not helping. All of this is described. It is authoritative scripture. This is historical literature. Everyone was amazed. How? Why is it not possible to move the cart? Nothing could move it. And at this time, Lord Chaitanya himself, with a waterfall of tears from his eyes of love of Godhead, everyone around were covered by his tears. Around him there were puddles of these tears. And then there is a beautiful picture which shows this scene where Lord Chaitanya is immersed in kirtan, and how Lord Chaitanya is immersed in this separation of love of Godhead. Everyone was immersed in this glorification of the Lord with him. And Jagannath himself on the cart were watching. They were stopping and could not go any further. And how do you continue the procession? How do you move him? Of Rathayatra procession to go on. At one point, Lord Chaitanya himself approached the cart, and from behind the cart, he leans with his head to the cart, and with his head he begins to walk, and the cart begins to move forward. And everyone in great astonishment begins to shout and glorify Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord, shouting, "You are yourself Krishna, you are the Lord, there is no doubt about it. You have come to drown the whole universe in love of Godhead." Incredible personality, great personality, mighty scholars of the greatest extent, kings. King Prataparudra, a great scholar, he said everyone was accepting him and glorifying him as God. What to speak of common people who saw his miracles and his qualities, which Gauranga Mahaprabhu performed. And in every group of musicians and the participants of the Sankirtan movement, and the dancers at that time of the ecstatic dance were immersed in this mood of love of Godhead. In every group in which there were 7, every one of them could see Lord Chaitanya dancing in their groups. All the 7 groups saw Lord Chaitanya in their group only. And Lord Chaitanya would go from one group to the other, dancing in ecstasy of love of Godhead. And everyone was thinking that everyone in their groups were thinking that he is dancing in his group in particular. So this dance of Lord Chaitanya is compared to the dance of Rasa Leela. His movement and his mission and his dance during the Harinam Sankirtan Yajna is the preaching of his mission. It is that very Rasa Leela, the dance of Rasa. And so participating in this way, in this very sacred, most sacred Leela of the Lord. Going on further then, in the 14th chapter, Madhya Lila, this is the Vrindavan pastimes, which are called where Lord Chaitanya and there are many names of Krishna and Srimati Radharani and gopis who immerse themselves in this mood. And in this time of Ratha Yatra, the next chapter, the Lord takes prasad at the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. One of these leelas, in this one chapter there are many leelas, over 200 texts in every chapter. So around more or less 200 shlokas. Therefore there are many leelas described and actions of the Lord. All of these we cannot capture, and so we will just partially. How Lord Chaitanya revealed his love to his devotees, his compassion, even to those who were perhaps envious and offensive towards him. Lord Chaitanya didn't tolerate when his devotees were offended, but when he was there was criticism towards himself, he was very forgiving and tolerant. And so one of these leelas was that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was a great teacher and scholar, and he was a spiritual preacher and guru, and tens of thousands of followers around the whole of India. He had great influence, and many scholars of Brihaspati was the most influential guru and preacher. Even he was the guru of the demigods. And he composed many glorificationary prayers to Lord Chaitanya. And to him the nature of the Lord was revealed. He showed to Brihaspati that he was the Lord himself. And he showed him his form of Krishna. And he also showed him his six-armed form, 2 arms belonging to Lord Ram, 2 to Lord Krishna and 2 to Lord Chaitanya. And it is shown, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya could see that he was the Lord himself in all 3 incarnations. Many devotees attempted to invite the Lord to their house for prasad, but only few got this benediction because there were so many of these invitations. So one time Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya invited him to his house, and he prepared very opulent prasad consisting of many dishes. And Lord Chaitanya very thoroughly followed the principles of sannyas in order to show a good example to his devotees who were serious. And he showed them the seriousness of the practice of the path of the Bhakti Yoga, of devotional service to the Lord. Sannyasi is renounced monks, and therefore they must control their senses. They must eat only a little, only to uphold their spirit within the body, keep the body and soul together. And everyone was trying to invite Lord Chaitanya Gauranga and to give him very opulent offerings, not knowing that he was, knowing that he was the Lord himself. And so the Lord consumed great amounts of prasad. And once Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya invited him, and Lord Chaitanya once came to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya for prasad, and he looked at all the offerings and he thought, there is no way I can eat all of this. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya objected that you 50 times eat in the temple of Jagannath, and in the form of Govardhan you have accepted so many offerings, so you should know that I am aware of who you are. Therefore drop this pretentiousness, drop this disguise and your false humility. And this mood of an ordinary person, just eat, Lord. And when the Lord ate everything, he showed his love to the devotee. And then the husband of the daughter of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya saw this. He criticized, how can a sannyasi eat so much? What sannyasi is this? What sort of monk is this? And so in this way, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and his wife, who had prepared this feast for the Lord Chaitanya, they chased him in order to chase him away from the Lord, in order that no offences or criticism could be made further. And being overcome with this grief that this has happened, that the Lord was criticized in their house, and having heard this criticism, they were cursing him. They said that it would have been better that our daughter was a widow. It's better for you to die than to act like this. And so he became gravely ill the next day from dysentery and was lying on his deathbed. And having found this out, Lord Chaitanya he came to him, and to cure him, he helped him. And he gave this instruction to him. And from this we can read a few shlokas.
Уже на следующее утро заболел холерой.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya thought that providence itself will decide what I decided to do. He wanted to kill him. When a person causes an offense to a great soul, then providence does not take long to render its effects. It is bad to act in an offensive manner to great souls. And so we are reading the 15th chapter of Madhya Lila, 271st text. At this time, Gopinathacharya went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord asked him about the events taking place in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. Gopinathacharya informed the Lord that both the husband and wife were fasting and that their son-in-law Amogha was dying of cholera. As soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that Amogha was going to die, he immediately ran to him in great haste. Placing his hand on Amogha's chest, he spoke as follows: "The heart of a Brahmana is by nature very clean, therefore it is proper place for Krishna to sit. Why have you allowed jealousy to sit here also? Because of this you have become like a Chandala, the lowest of men, and you have also contaminated the most purified place, your heart. However, due to the association of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, all your contamination is now vanquished. When a person's heart is cleansed of all contamination, he is able to chant the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna. Therefore, Amogha, get up and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If you do so, Krishna will unfailingly bestow upon you his mercy." After hearing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and being touched by him, Amogha, who was on his deathbed, immediately stood up and began to chant the holy name of Krishna. Thus he became mad with ecstatic love and began to dance emotionally. While Amogha danced in ecstatic love, he manifested all the ecstatic symptoms: trembling, tears, jubilation, trance, perspiration, and faltering voice. Seeing these waves of ecstatic emotion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to laugh. Amogha then fell before the Lord's lotus feet and submissively said, "O merciful Lord, please excuse my offences." Not only did Amogha beg the Lord's pardon, but he also began slapping his own cheeks, saying, "By this mouth I have blasphemed you." Indeed, Amogha continued slapping his face over and over until his cheeks were swollen. Finally, Gopinathacharya stopped him by catching hold of his hands. After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pacified Amogha by touching his body and saying, "You are the object of my affection because you are the son-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Everyone in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house is very dear to me, including his maids and servants, and even his dog, and what to speak of his relatives. Amogha, always chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and do not commit any further offences." After saying this, giving Amogha this instruction, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Sarvabhaumacharya's house. Upon seeing the Lord, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya immediately caught hold of his lotus feet. The Lord also embraced him and sat down. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pacified Sarvabhauma, saying, "After all, Amogha, your son-in-law is a child, so what is his fault? Why are you fasting and why are you angry? Just get up and take your bath and go see the face of Lord Jagannath, then return here to eat your lunch. In this way I shall be happy. I shall stay here until you return to take Lord Jagannath's remembrance for your lunch." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Amogha is a child and your son. The father does not take the fault of his son seriously, especially when he is maintaining him. Now that he has become a Vaishnava, he is offenceless. You can bestow your mercy upon him without hesitation." Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, "Please go, my lord, to see Lord Jagannath. After taking my bath, I shall go there and then return." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told Gopinath, "Stay here and inform me when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has taken his prasada." After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Lord Jagannath. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya completed his bath, went to see Lord Jagannath, and then returned to his house to accept food. Thereafter Mokha became an unalloyed devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He danced in ecstasy and peacefully chanted the holy names of Krishna. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enjoyed eating in Sarvabhaumacharya's house. Within that one pastime, many wonderful pastimes were manifested. These are particular characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Thus the Lord ate in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house, and in this way Sarvabhauma's love for the Lord has become very well known. Thus I have related the ecstatic love of Sarvabhauma's wife, who is known as the mother of Sati. I have also related Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's great mercy, which he manifested by excusing Amolka's offense. He did so due to Amolka's relationship with the devotee. Whoever hears these pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with faith and love will attain the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet very soon. And the 16th chapter relates how the Lord tries to go to Vrindavan from Jagannath Puri. And Prataparuja Maharaj organizes for him Hello. Dear friends, please forgive us for any technical issues. We literally have 3 minutes. We shall ask one question to Krishna Mishra. Natalie is wondering, how did you meet Valmiki Prabhu? In Harinam Tour, he calls himself the good cop and you're the bad cop. How did it come about, this idea, and how did it begin? Well, it all began in the beginning of the 2000 year 2000. We met in Omsk, and then when we began to travel to the Himalayas, there was only a few of us back then. We were 4 of us, and the first time in the beginning of the 2000, and then the idea came that traveling somewhere in the Himalayas into Badrinath, we went and were thinking such ecstasy, such bliss, spiritual happiness. Why is there only a few of us feeling this mood? We must make sure that everyone is feeling this. And then we thought, we need somebody decisive and who has these qualities, this determination. Somebody we need, like a president, Vladimir Putin. He said, I am that Vladimir Vladimirovich. And Valmiki knows this. Therefore, we must act. And so in this way, we decisively began to do this in order to attract loads of people, and through him, reacting to his determination to attract everyone and gave us the spiritual path, he began to attract so many people to this, into the mission of Lord Chaitanya. I don't know what he's talking about. These police people, everyone has a different mood. Some are looking that they are to communicate with people more in a good way, and some speak with people in a different way. Everyone has their own quality, their own mood to communicate. So some people have this idea come to mind. So in this way we have our different moods. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Krishna Mishra Prabhu. And then we just wanted to add at the end, we have so many responses to your mission, and would like to hear about it on Instagram and how to join. So if you tell us, we will give a link. Hare Krishna, yes, thank you. We'll do. Thank you to devotees for participating, for their genuineness and their openness, for the desire to communicate and to converse and associate, and allowed me to serve you. Thank you very much. At the moment, we have a development where I am here at the moment. There are many projects, a temple on the way, many programs. There are some plans coming together. So we shall develop it and communicate online and in person as well, and shall develop in this direction. Thank you very much. We wish you, from myself and from all of our audience, all auspiciousness in your mission. And we encourage everybody in half an hour to listen to Valmiki Prabhu. Please join. Thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna. Thank you.